Good morning, everyone, and happy Sunday. It's a beautiful day here in Southern California, and we're just getting past our little heat wave, I hope, so we're cooling down. So, welcome to another Kansas Avenue Health Ministries presentation this Sunday morning. Today, we'll be learning about lifestyle medicine. This is an exciting area of integrative medicine that helps us be more well-rounded with our healthcare. And so we're going to learn more about lifestyle medicine with Dr. Wayne Dissinger and Dr. Ryan Herron. So let's open with a word of prayer. Father God, thank you so much for waking us up this morning in our right minds. Thank you for being with us throughout the night with our families. And please be with everyone on this presentation, that it will be fruitful to them, that they will gain knowledge and be able to apply it to their lives. Please be with Dr. Wayne Dissinger and Dr. Ryan Herron, that they will be able to impart to us what you would have us learn. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. So welcome again. And we also want to remind you to feel free to engage with us in the chat feature, ask your questions, and we will try to have the doctors answer them throughout the program. So let me introduce to you first Dr. Wayne Dissinger. He is a lifestyle and preventative and family medicine physician who currently serves as a physician chair and founder of Lifestyle Medical, a new model group of primary care clinics built around lifestyle medicine principles. He is also the co-founder of the Lifestyle Medicine Network, a collaboration of primary care practices throughout the United States that all have a lifestyle medicine foundation. Additionally, he is the chair of both the American Board of Lifestyle Medicine and the International Board of Lifestyle Medicine. He is an active faculty at Loma Linda University and consults, teaches, and participates in research on lifestyle medicine issues around the world. Dr. Dissinger is a past president of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine and past medical director of the Complete Health Improvement Program. He has previously worked in various capacities with the American Medical Association, the American College of Preventive Medicine, and the Association for Prevention, Teaching, and Research. Prior to his current position, Dr. Dissinger was chair, Department of the Preventative Medicine, Loma Linda University, and faculty co-founder of both the Family and the Preventative Medicine residencies at Dartmouth. He has also worked in faculty, patient care, and service capacities in Atlanta and Guam. Dr. Dissinger earned his medical degree from Loma Linda University School of Medicine and his master's in public health from Loma Linda University School of Public Health. He is a fellow of the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, the American College of Preventative Medicine, and the American Academy of Family Physicians. Welcome, Dr. Dissinger. And then we have Dr. Ryan Herron. He is a primary care and lifestyle medicine physician at Lifestyle Medical, a value-based family practice in the Inland Empire focused on restoring health and optimizing well-being. He utilizes a whole person care approach to treat root causes of disease with expertise in lifestyle interventions and behavior change. He is a national young leader in health promotion and the field of lifestyle medicine. Welcome, Dr. Ryan Herron. So I understand that you both will be doing our presentation today on a new and old approach to healthcare. Who will be going first?
Well, first, thank you so much for the introduction, and it's such an honor to be here with the Kansas Avenue Church, and I'm very impressed at the sophistication of your health ministry. This is a wonderful service that you're providing, and we're just honored to be participating in it. So we do have a little presentation, and we're gonna go back and forth a little bit as we go through the slides. But we'll share those slides. But I think more importantly than sharing slides is just interacting with everybody in the audience. And virtual is wonderful in so many ways, but one of the challenges of virtual is that we don't get to see you, but we can sort of see you if you chat. So feel free to bring to the chat anything as we go through, and we'll stop as we go through, but we'll also have time, hopefully, at the end to have as much dialogue as we'd like to have, because it's that interaction that I think is one of the most valuable things in presentations like this. So I don't know exactly what I need to do to share the slides. Are they? Okay, there we go.
There you go.
Okay, so again, it's an honor to be here. We're going to talk about healthcare from this lifestyle medicine perspective. And hopefully through this, not only do you get to learn more about lifestyle medicine, but also you'll get to learn more about how it fits not only for the older generation. So I'm the old man in the group here, and a lot of our patients are baby boomers and people who are sort of in the older generation. So I'll share a little bit about that. And then we're also going to talk about lifestyle medicine for younger generations. And Dr. Herron comes from that younger generation and practices. We both practice for all generations, but his practice is devoted a little bit more to the younger, and mine's a little bit more towards the older. So starting off with this slide, this is a slide I like to show in almost all of my presentations. And if a new patient's joining us in our clinic, I like to show it there as well. And what it does is it sort of gives a perspective of lifestyle medicine in comparison to traditional medicine, the way we've usually seen it practiced. And what I share about as far as this slide is concerned is that when I went to medical school, I was trained in the top two sections of this triangle. So how to do procedures, how to prescribe medications. That was the core of what medical school was about, of what residency training was about. And it's really what our healthcare system has been built around is procedures and medications and those types of things. But if you look at what causes healthcare problems around the United States and really around the world, the majority of it is what we call chronic disease. So when I'm seeing patients, the majority of time we're talking about a chronic disease they have. And chronic disease is by definition anything that you've had for more than 2 years. So it can be heart disease, it can be diabetes, it can be chronic pain, it can be depression, it can be any number of healthcare challenges that you might have that's there long lasting. And that's compared to short-term things, which are mainly like infections or accidents or those kinds of things that our body tends to overcome. And so 80% or so of our healthcare interactions are around these chronic disease. And if you look at chronic diseases, about 80% of those are directly related to our lifestyle choices. So if we could be perfect in these 4 pillars, this nourishment, movement, resilience, and connectedness, if we could practice those perfectly, literally 80% of the diseases that we have wouldn't be there. So what lifestyle medicine is about is it's about saying that let's focus on these things first. Let's not just jump straight to the medications. Let's not just do a bunch of procedures. Let's focus on these lifestyle practices. They're low cost, they're low risk, they're natural, they make sense to people. Let's focus on those. And then if we need to, we'll go up the triangle. So we'll prescribe medications if that's needed. We'll do procedures if that's needed. But let's try to do this treatment, this prevention, and sometimes even reversal of disease that can occur with lifestyle. And a little emphasis there on the reversal concept. A lot of people, when they get diabetes, they think, well, I'm stuck with this for the rest of their lives. Well, that's not necessarily true. Lifestyle medicine has been proven scientifically that frequently we can not only prevent and stop these diseases, but we can also actually reverse them and get rid of them. So that's a lot about the concept of lifestyle medicine. We're going to talk more about this in more detail as we go through, and then we'll finish up talking about our practice and some of the things that we do differently in our practice. So lifestyle medicine, to a large extent, is built around community. And we're blessed to have a community around our practices. We have an office in Riverside and another office in Redlands. And it so happens that our society has made it hard to practice lifestyle medicine. So it's not necessarily easy to make the healthy choice from an exercise perspective, from a food perspective. But if we create healthy communities and we move into this lifestyle medicine concept together, then that certainly allows us to have more success in adopting lifestyle changes for ourselves. I know for myself, I schedule my exercise to do with someone else. So several times a week, I have one friend or another who I'm exercising with. And if those friends are there, then I'm going to show up because I don't want to let them down. But if those friends aren't there, then it's much harder for me. I say maybe 50% of the time, I'll still go out and exercise. But if they're not there, again, that's a 50% failure rate. Whereas if they're there, it's pretty close to 100%. So we need to do these things together. We all do. So that's going to be part of what we talk about today is how can you join a healthy community and go forward together. As I said in the introduction, we're going to talk a little bit about the different generations and their different concerns. So I'm a young person for the baby boomer generation, but I'm still technically considered to be in the baby boomer generation. And baby boomers think of things a little differently than younger people. In our practice, we try to be present to both generations. So if you think about the baby boomer generation, and this just sort of lists the different generations. So baby boomers generally start around, at this point, most of them are 75, in their early 60s to 75 or so. So that's the generation I'm from. I have a wife who's a little younger than me, so she's in the Generation X area. So it's a different mindset for different generations. And then Dr. Herron is going to talk more about the Millennials and the Generation Z and some of the thoughts that those generations bring to healthcare. But when we think about the older generations, one of the things that we talk about is this concept of compression of morbidity. So people can say, why does it make sense to work on health now? We're all going to die eventually. But there's actually two things that we're trying to do here. One is we're trying to extend life, and I'm a Seventh-day Adventist. We're talking, I presume, to a lot of Seventh-day Adventists, and we've shown in the Adventist Health Study that we can extend life by 10 years or so just by living healthier. So you can see in that middle section there, that's life extension. So we're living longer, but what we really want is this compression of morbidity. We want that lower graph where not only are we extending life, but we're extending healthy life, because it's less valuable to extend life if you're unhealthy, and if you're unhealthy, it's harder to enjoy the life that you do have. So this compression of morbidity is a very real thing. And we know that if we live on a healthy lifestyle, we'll be healthy longer. And in this slide on that bottom graph, you can see there's still this time of illness before you die. Ideally, we would eliminate morbidity, so we'd be healthy, and then we'd die. And we can never guarantee that, but certainly the healthy lifestyle approaches make it more likely that we can compress that morbidity more and more so that we can be healthy, and then eventually we'll die. So we now have a little video, and because we're not used to this technology, I'm not 100% sure that we can share it, but I'm going to make an attempt here. Yeah, so it's not happening easily, so I'm going to just skip this. But I would encourage any of you, all of you, especially if you're in that Generation X or that baby boomer generation, or perhaps the generation even before that, to look at this video. Just Google the last 10 years of your life. Look it up on YouTube. It's just a 1 to 2 minute video. And you can see even from here, it's basically saying, if you live life well, if you make healthy choices, you can experience a very different life than if you live life where you don't care about your health choices and you make poor health choices. It's a very different way for finishing life. And obviously, we want to help people live life on this video more towards the side on the left and less towards the side on the right. So with that, the video is going to work like that.
What will your last 10 years look like? Will you be quick enough for a game of tag with your grandchild? Strong enough to embrace every moment? Will you grow old with vitality? Or get old with disease? It's time to decide.
Okay, we're now going to turn it over to Dr. Herring, and he's going to talk a little bit about some of the younger generations.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Deisinger. So if you're just joining, I am Dr. Herring. I'm a young doctor, lifestyle medicine doctor, and I am a millennial. And so I bring this perspective to my practice. You know, I really do understand what younger generations are looking for in their healthcare. But as Dr. Deisinger said earlier, you know, all of our providers, we really try to meet the needs of all of our patients, no matter what generation they're in. But I think that the younger generations are particularly relevant from a healthcare standpoint because, you know, they're making up over 50% of the US population right now. So as they age, they're going to place greater and greater demands on the healthcare system. So we really need to know how to reach them, how to meet their needs, and really engage them in their healthcare. And this is one of the reasons why I trained in preventive medicine and why I'm so passionate about it. So you can see that the millennial generation there, they are the largest generation right now in the U.S. These younger generations, you know, they really grew up with the internet and the computer and social media, and naturally their lives have really been shaped by these different technologies. And we want to recognize that and really integrate that into their healthcare, because these are often their go-to sources for their health information, right? They search the internet, they will be looking on social media for information about their health or particular concerns that they have, as compared to maybe older generations who would go right to their doctor because really, you know, they didn't have as much accessible information. But at our practice at Lifestyle Medical, we're able to offer, you know, both virtual and in-person visits and even phone calls. So we're able to connect with all generations and really meet them where they're at. So next slide, please. Let's take a little bit deeper look at the younger generations in healthcare. You know, over 10 million are actually uninsured. More than a third do not have a primary care doctor. They're really just not thinking necessarily about engaging in primary care yet. But I really want to encourage the younger generations to be thinking about this, because we really know that chronic disease starts early in life. And there's a lot that we can do to address that from a preventive care standpoint. So when we survey younger generations, what we're finding is that they're really increasingly dissatisfied with the traditional healthcare system, much like a lot of patients are in the US. And a lot of these younger patients are dissatisfied with the effectiveness of conventional treatments. And what they really seem to value are things like convenience, affordability, virtual care options, doing telemedicine visits, and digital communication, things like text messaging the office. And they also prefer a more holistic approach to their health, which is really exciting because this is a perfect fit for the lifestyle medicine approach. Next slide, please. So there was an interesting report published by Blue Cross Blue Shield, which is a very common commercial insurance in the United States. And this report specifically looked at the health of over 55 million millennials with commercial insurance. And so overall, about 83% of millennials consider themselves in good or excellent health, so pretty high. But I think what may surprise a lot of viewers here is that younger patients actually start to experience a decline in their health earlier than you may think, and actually sooner than previous generations. So what you're seeing there with the graph on the vertical axis there, what's called the health index, Blue Cross Blue Shield actually figured out a way to quantify over 300 different health conditions to identify, what kinds of diseases and other conditions are most affecting millennials and younger generations. And they're actually able to assign a score to that, a score from 0 to 100, to essentially say, what percentage of millennials are actually living in their optimal health. And we can look on the graph at different ranges there, different age ranges, and you can see what the health index is for those ages. At the time of this report, the average health index for millennials is about 95, so meaning that 95% of millennials are living in their optimal health. So what you can see is starting at age 27 there, that's really where we start to see a relatively greater decline in health, meaning that of all those 300 different health conditions, they're starting to have a greater impact on the health and quality of life of millennials. And this impact is happening sooner than previous generations, and it seems to be, even more ubiquitous in affecting millennials and their overall quality of life. Now, this figure is also from the Blue Cross Blue Shield report, and what it's showing is the top 10 health conditions that are affecting millennials. And actually, the vast majority of them, at least 6 out of 10 of them, are related to emotional health. So things like mental health, depression, substance use, different psychiatric conditions. And the other 4 are more related to physical health, things like cardiovascular disease and diabetes. So I think what's really important to know is that having a behavioral health condition, a mental health condition, actually makes you about twice as likely to have one of these physical health conditions, and things like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, heart disease, and inflammatory bowel disease. So it's very clear that there's a very strong connection between our emotional health and our physical health. So we really want to be addressing all of that when we're working with patients, which is exactly what we do at Lifestyle Medical. I think one of the most concerning health effects of the COVID-19 pandemic has really been the emotional burden on everyone, especially younger generations. So this is coming from what's called the Deloitte Global Millennial and Gen Z Survey. And this was a really interesting survey because it actually surveyed younger generations before and at different points during the pandemic. So prior to the pandemic, almost half of all millennials and Gen Zs said that they felt stressed all or most of the time. But what's surprising is that, early in the pandemic, when they were surveyed around April of 2020, they were actually reporting a drop in their stress levels. And there's a variety of reasons why this could have been. They were spending more time at home, connecting more with their families, less time commuting, just feeling less stress in general. So it really highlights, the importance of connectedness and having that social support in your life. When they were surveyed again in early 2021, essentially their stress levels had returned to pre-pandemic level, if not worsened, as the pandemic sort of dragged on and we were starting to return to normal life a bit. And women are experiencing higher stress levels than men, significantly higher. At least 54% of Gen Z women and 45% of millennial women are saying that they feel stressed all or most of the time. Almost half of all millennials and Gen Zs have actually taken time off of work for their emotional health. And they actually felt that they had to give their employer a different reason why they were taking time off of work. So clearly, despite more discussion about mental health during the pandemic, there's a huge stigma around mental health, especially at work. Now, you're seeing the list there of the top stress drivers. And these are things related to thinking about the welfare of your family, the long-term financial future, and really uncertainty about, when the pandemic is going to end. And there's a couple other top stress drivers there related to, again, job, the physical and mental health, and the social and political climate. Now, the mental health challenges in younger generations, I think, are pretty concerning. And they're so concerning that the U.S. Surgeon General, Dr. Murthy, actually released a public health advisory really calling for action to address the youth mental health crisis. And I think that Dr. Murthy really said it best here, as we're moving forward in the pandemic and returning to more normal life, we really need to focus our attention on finding our common values and putting people first. And most importantly is strengthening our connections to each other. The pandemic has also helped to bring to light, what are younger generations' biggest personal concerns. You can see the top 3 concerns there between millennials and Gen Zs, and there's a lot of common concerns here. The only difference there really being the top concern reported for millennials is thinking about their healthcare and disease prevention, whereas Gen Zs are really concerned about climate change and protecting the environment. So we're going to talk more about the lifestyle medicine approach and how that really does integrate these personal concerns very well. So we really want to highlight that, lifestyle medicine as an approach in healthcare is an evidence-based approach, and which is really important to know. And it's based on a lot of long-term science, a lot of good, strong science, and especially around these 4 key areas, what we call our 4 lifestyle vital signs. So these areas are nourishment, movement, resilience, and connectedness. So we're going to talk a little bit more about each one. So nourishment, we tend to think of nutrition, right? The food that we're eating, but it's really more than that. It's also what we're drinking, water and other beverages, really anything that goes into our system, including tobacco, other harmful substances, pollutants. I think there's even growing science looking at environmental toxins and how that affects our health. What you're seeing there on the right is a handout that we use at Lifestyle Medical for almost all of our patients, really. I tend to give this to pretty much every one of the patients that I see, and this is called our Daily Dozen. So this is a list of whole, unprocessed plant foods that we know are most associated with improvement in health and long-term health. And these foods also are the most therapeutic. So what we really try to help our patients do, and we're working with them one-on-one, is, how can we get more of these foods on their plate? And I think that a lot of these foods, most people are very familiar with. They're very relatable. You enjoy a lot of these foods. But what we're really trying to do is get a therapeutic dose of these foods, right? A therapeutic lifestyle medicine dose that can actually help push us closer to chronic disease reversal. So essentially, overall quality of food. The next lifestyle medicine vital sign is what we're calling movement. So different types of physical activity, we're all familiar with different types of cardiovascular movements, walking, running, but also strength training and flexibility, something called naturotherapy, right? We really want to be doing a portion of our exercise outside, getting that natural sunlight, which has a lot of therapeutic benefits as well. This also includes our activities of daily living and frankly, just trying to avoid sitting. And this is one of the challenges I see with a lot of my patients, is just trying to avoid too much sitting during the day. And a lot of that is dependent on our schedule, right? We all have different jobs that sort of require us to be sitting a lot of the times. But what I like to talk to my patients about is doing microbursts of activity, right? We want to think about how can we integrate this into our daily lives, break up our day, going for a short walk if we can outside. There's something called deskercise, where you're literally doing different types of exercises right at your desk. And this can be seated exercises, doing body weight squats, using your chair for support. So there's a lot of opportunity here. And I think that we all struggle with, right, finding time in our day. But if we think about actually integrating this into our daily lives, I think we can all identify times in our day where this certainly is possible to get some activity in. The third lifestyle vital sign is called resilience, which is really one of my favorite lifestyle vital signs. I know it is Dr. Deisinger's as well. This is one of our favorite vital signs to talk to patients about, because it really gives us a lot of insight about, someone's life as a whole. So the three core areas there are restorative sleep. So getting consistent, deep restorative sleep every night, 7 to 8 hours on average, stress management, and then rest or renewal. So the scientific evidence for restorative sleep, I think, is really significant, and it continues to grow, especially for our cognitive health, our emotional health. So if you're someone who feels like they can get by with, maybe 5-6 hours of sleep per night, it's very likely that you're likely robbing yourself of optimal health, right? Because we know sleep deprivation is associated with our food choices. So we tend to seek out food more when we're sleep deprived. And it does take a toll on our mood, anxiety, and our productivity. So it's not just about sleep, it's also about really giving ourselves the opportunity for rest and renewal. So you can imagine that if you're sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night, but you're still feeling tired in your day, there can be a couple reasons why that is. And one of them is just you're not giving yourself enough opportunity for rest and renewal emotionally. So I really encourage you to ask yourself, are you making time to decompress from work when you're outside of work, decompressing from the news and social media? And if you're struggling with that, I highly recommend trying out some of these different stress management techniques like mindfulness and meditation, which are probably the most studied methods here. We know that they can enhance the body's ability to actually recover from physical and emotional stress. And they can even tone down that stress response, that fight or flight response that we've all felt. So toning that down a little bit to make us a little bit more efficient at responding to stress. There's a variety of other techniques for releasing and replacing that we find to be extremely valuable. But if you're looking for a place to start here, we really just encourage you to take some time in your day, even if it's just a few moments, right? A few moments to pause, taking a few deep breaths that allows you to recenter yourself, and find more presence in your day. And the fourth lifestyle vital sign is what we've been talking about all along here is connectedness, right? And this includes social supports and our spiritual supports. Some of the most successful lifestyle medicine interventions are the ones that are done in community, in groups. And Dean Ornish, who is a pioneer in lifestyle medicine, really recognized this as the magic of lifestyle medicine. So in our practice, we really consciously try to work to help our patients build their connectedness. And we have a variety of ways to do that through our own support groups. We have virtual groups that meet weekly, and we try to help our patients find community resources as well. And of course, getting connected with a church community is incredibly valuable. So our spiritual supports, we always try to integrate this into our patient care at Lifestyle Medical. So we can think about this as vertical connectedness, right? So thinking about living our lives with more purpose and meaning, trying to identify what that is, and finding more presence in our lives. And we can think about this as having a higher power, right? Thinking about things that are greater than ourselves.
So thank you, Ryan. And we're now going to share a couple stories and just try to share with you what it looks like to go to a lifestyle medicine practice. And I want to emphasize that we have two practices in the Inland Empire, in Riverside and Redlands, but these practices are now popping up all around the country. We have a network of these practices that we interact together, and we're just trying to offer patients this different approach, this approach where we start at the bottom of that triangle, start with the natural things, and know, as Dr. Herron emphasized, that this is scientific, it's evidence-based, so we can expect to get good results if we implement it in the appropriate ways. So I'm going to tell a story about Anna. Anna is a baby boomer. So she, when this story started, she was 72 years old. Anna's now been our patient for several years. This isn't her actual picture, but she is a Hispanic female. And she came in with very poorly controlled diabetes. She also had some issues with her blood pressure and with her kidneys. She had some issues with strokes. And she came in with a hemoglobin A1C of 13.1. So if you're medical at all or have diabetes yourself, you know that 13.1 is incredibly out of control. The goal is to have that number closer to 5.5. So she was more than double above what was considered ideal. And really anything over 7, we don't feel good about. So she was basically double of what we really started getting worried about. So crazy poor controlled blood sugar. You can see BMI is a way of measuring weight. And she was not quite obese, but she was very close to being obese. So she had some significant health issues going on. And she showed up in our practice, and she wanted to do things differently. She didn't really want to take medications. Generally, even though we're a lifestyle medicine practice, generally someone with a hemoglobin A1C of 13, we would seriously look at medications. But she didn't want to do that. And so we had a program. We put her in our intensive lifestyle change program. And we incorporated all the pillars that Dr. Herron just talked about: nourishment, movement, resilience, and connectedness. Her connectedness, a lot of that came from joining one of our support groups. We have a variety of groups that occur on a daily basis, or I should say on a weekly basis. So we have a group almost every day in our practice. And she joined that group, and it really made a difference. She immediately changed her diet, and she changed her diet rather drastically. It's not necessarily easy to change your diet drastically immediately, but she was motivated to do that, and sometimes that works very well for people. Most of our patients will change their diet slowly and gradually, and just try to help them move towards that daily dozen that Dr. Herron was talking about. But for Anna, she changed her diet drastically immediately. She also started getting more active. She started feeling better very quickly. As she changed her diet immediately, she started feeling better. So this helped her with her sleep and her stress. And so we got amazing results. So in a little over 4 months, her hemoglobin A1C had dropped in half. Remember, we said that over 7 is something we really like to work on. So she got down to 6.6, not quite back to normal, but down to 6.6, which was amazing. We almost never see that, but in Anna's case, she had these incredible results. And this was done without any medications whatsoever. So she was not taking any pills. This happened purely through lifestyle change. And more importantly to me is the shine that you could see in her face when she showed up at her groups, her energy and her joy for life. It was just contagious to see how happy she was and how much her life had changed. So this was Anna. Again, this was about 4 or 5 years ago. But Anna also had some challenges. She actually didn't have a stable living situation. So she would move from place to place frequently. She didn't have good kitchen facilities. We even thought, we never were able to confirm this. Anna didn't want to admit it, but we think that she was actually living in her car during some of these times. And obviously it's hard to keep that healthy lifestyle when you're having this much of a challenge as far as your living situation. But Anna was able to stay connected, and our practice has a whole system where we stay connected to our patients. So if a patient doesn't show up, we reach out to them, and we call them, and we see how they're doing. But Anna's hemoglobin A1C had climbed back up to a scary range. 10 is not near as bad as 13, but it's still scary high. So we brought in our dietitians and our health coaches. We had an occupational therapist go to her home and analyze the current living situation that she was in. And then you can see that abbreviation there, MACN. That's our medical assistants who have special training on health coaching and navigation. So I actually, this slide was made from a previous presentation. So you can see in this slide, it says last hemoglobin A1C was 8.7. I actually just looked up this morning. I didn't have a chance to change the slide yet, but her last hemoglobin A1C was actually 7.2. And 7.2 is, we still want to see that lower, but it's an acceptable hemoglobin A1C. So this is 5 years in. One of the challenges that we get when we're talking about lifestyle medicine is people will say, well, it doesn't really last. Well, this is a 5-year story that's showing that it does last. And it hasn't been a perfect story, but nevertheless, Anna is getting that morbidity compression that we talked about earlier. She has a better housing situation now, which is wonderful, and one of the reasons why her hemoglobin A1C is lower. But she's still staying connected, and she's still trying to practice all 4 of the pillars of lifestyle medicine that Dr. Herron talked about. So again, coming back to this idea of having a connected community. So these are pictures, local pictures. Most of them are local pictures around the Riverside area of different groups at the Goski Center and other places. And we just encourage all of you to join a group, and that group can be through your church. That group can be through an office like ourselves. You can create that group with just a bunch of friends, and move towards health together. Go out and do gardening. Go walking together. Think about having meals together and planning recipes together. This is how we really believe that that lifestyle medicine is best implemented in these connected communities. So that's the story of Anna, and we're now going to let Dr. Herron tell the story of Samantha.
Yeah, so Samantha is one of my millennial patients who I had met in the last year or so. And she's a 30-year-old female, and you can see her medical conditions there. When I met her, she had already high cholesterol, elevated liver enzymes, a lot of work-related stress. So it became very clear to me that Samantha's life really did revolve around her work and where she seemed to find most of her purpose. But it was kind of getting to a point where it was starting to really impact her emotional health as well. And she also had overweight. So some of her initial health data, you could see her elevated cholesterol there, especially the LDL cholesterol was about 160, which is a little bit too high for comfort there. We like to get it definitely closer to 100 or below naturally. Elevated triglycerides as well, and the liver enzymes there, the AST and ALT, were also a little bit elevated there. So there was certainly some connected health conditions happening in her body. And, we always try to get a very comprehensive lifestyle history from all of our patients, right? Because that's what really helps us to best understand how can we actually implement these lifestyle interventions for them to be therapeutic? So Samantha's lifestyle vital signs there, she was already eating a more vegetarian diet, but it was very processed. So a lot of processed foods, a very small percentage coming from those unprocessed whole plant foods that we saw earlier on the Daily Dozen list. She was also pretty inactive, a lot of stress from working long work hours and difficulty decompressing from that, really. So you can see the lifestyle prescription there that we really came to together, working together to find out, what is Samantha most interested in working on? And then I could add in there, what did I feel was going to be truly therapeutic for her to improve how she's feeling and her other medical conditions. So she also made a pretty drastic change in her nutrition. She essentially switched out all of her more processed plant foods to unprocessed plant foods. So really getting the bulk of her nutrition from fruits and vegetables, cooked beans and lentils, lots of leafy greens, other cooked vegetables, and some nuts and seeds and avocado. And so she was eating at least 80% unprocessed plant foods there. She started lifting weights 3 days a week with her husband, going on walks in the evening with her husband as well. And then also making time, right, to work on her social support, going on coffee date with close friends. So you can see sort of the comprehensiveness of the lifestyle prescription where we're improving the quality of the nutrition, but we're also helping Samantha find ways to decompress with more exercise, and again, building her connectedness and her support with her husband and her close friends. So this is a recipe on the right there you're seeing is Chef AJ. That's a close friend of our practice as well, and she has a lot of wonderful resources and cooking resources as well. And this is her red lentil chili, which is one of my favorite recipes. And you can find this on the Forks Over Knives website, or they also have a app on the phone that has a lot of wonderful recipes here. So, Samantha implemented these lifestyle changes, and over about a 6-month period, we saw significant improvements in her cholesterol and liver numbers there. We can see we got the LDL cholesterol, which is again that bad cholesterol, if you will, that if it's too elevated does raise your risk of having a heart attack or a stroke. We were able to get that under 100. But I think most importantly for Samantha is she really found more love and joy in her life. And she was able to do that because she worked on her connectedness. And through that connectedness, she could actually, gain some momentum in working on these lifestyle areas, having some accountability with a workout partner, her husband. She was able to lose weight, about 15 pounds. And she also worked on setting boundaries with work, right? So she was able to better decompress and improve her overall emotional health. So putting all this together, what we really want to emphasize for our practice, our lifestyle medical practice, is that we feel that we're much more than a typical doctor's office. We try to build real relationships with our patients, and we're able to do that really because we have a little bit longer appointment windows. So generally at least 30 minutes in person or virtual. We do telemedicine appointments as well if you're not local to our practices. And we're always available. We have 24/7 phone service, after-hour calls as well. You can email the practice or your provider, and we use an app as well, so you can instant message your doctor. We have same-day or next-day acute visits, so we're often able to save our patients trips to the urgent care or even the emergency room and avoid missing work. As we've been talking about, we have a lot of wellness benefits built into our practice. So not only are you getting our providers who are all trained and board certified in lifestyle medicine, but we also have health coaches, a wonderful dietitian, health psychologists, occupational therapists, and we have weekly running support groups that are all meeting virtually right now, and we're hopeful to get those back in person at some point here to do our cooking classes, especially because a lot of our patients love that resource. And all the providers, we're very well aware of the different resources in our communities. So we're always trying to connect our patients with different events and classes. So it's really nice because we offer a free meet and greet with any of our providers. And so you can actually meet with us briefly to see if we're going to be a good fit for you. And we love doing that because I think a lot of our patients find that when they come to our clinics and they talk with us, that they really see the difference in our practice, in our overall approach, and the amount of resources that we have built in there. So I encourage you to, if you're interested, to email us there at hello@lifestylemedical.com. You can call our office as well. On the next slide, we have a picture of our website. So that's lifestylemedical.com. And all the providers there, if you go under the Our Doctors tab there, you can actually find a little intro video that we've all made. So you can get to know us a little bit and decide if we're going to be a good fit for you. You can read about other patient stories as well, about how they were able to really, regain their health and find that greater love and joy in their life. So again, that phone number there is 951-742-7324. So that's all the slides we have here, and we would love to have some more discussion about this. If any questions have come in as well, we're happy to answer those.
Awesome. What a great presentation. We learned so much about lifestyle medicine. And so we have a few questions regarding this. KARC Rebuild is asking, is your practice fee for service or insurance?
So that's a great question. and obviously someone who's a good health consumer. So we appreciate that. So we feel that the lifestyle medicine is practiced best in what we call value-based care. And value-based care basically means that we as doctors get reimbursed on a monthly visit to keep someone healthy, on a monthly basis, I should say, to keep someone healthy, rather than a typical fee for service. So fee for service means when someone comes in, we see them, and then we bill their insurance or bill them depending on the situation. And then we wait for them to come in again, and then we'll bill again. Well, if you think about it, that almost incentivizes us to not really keep someone healthy, because if they don't come in, we don't get paid. And we would rather be incentivized to keep them healthy. So in this value-based reimbursement scheme, we get paid if we keep them healthy, and we actually get paid more if we can keep them out of the hospital and if we can really just maximize their health. So we feel that's the right way for reimbursement in lifestyle medicine. So our practice is set up that way. Now, the way it works is if you're over 65 and you have Medicare, that happens automatically. So there's a variety of different ways you can have Medicare. There's Medicare B and Medicare C, and Medicare Advantage and regular Medicare. There's all these different scenarios, but in all of them, our practice is reimbursed through that value-based approach. And as a patient, you don't need to worry about it. It all happens behind the scenes. But we get reimbursed the way that works well for us, and we get to take care of you, focusing on your health. Now, if you're under 65, those value-based arrangements are a little harder to find. So insurance companies tend to not do them as well when you're under 65. But suffice it to say, we're members of several HMOs, so there's a little bit there. We're members of several PPOs, which feels a little bit more like fee for service. But for us, we also have a membership fee. So if you're under 65, if you're over 65, the membership fee is basically paid for by Medicare, so you don't pay anything yourself. If you're under 65, we do have a membership fee. That membership fee is not very expensive. It's $18 a month. So that's what you get. That's what you pay to have all the access to everything that we offer, the groups and the coaches and the dietitians and these 30-minute visits and these emails and just the access to doctors. So it's a little bit of an expense, but it's not too bad. And if you just think of how much you spend on, for those of you who are coffee drinkers, spend on coffee or any number of things, it's not a bad price to pay for your health. So that's the way our reimbursement goes. Some people don't have insurance, or they have a very high deductible insurance. So they have to pay for the first $5,000 or $10,000. For those people, we have something called the direct primary care fee. That's $78 a month. So it's a fair bit more expensive. But for $78 a month, you get all of our services again for no additional cost. Well, actually, in that we have a little copay on that, but it's not very much. It's like $10 a visit. So $78 a month, and again, that's way less expensive than if you're trying to buy health insurance. And we have family rates for that as well. So great question. And I'm a doctor. I'd rather talk about keeping people healthy than money. But we're also we're private practice, so we have to think through the money side a little bit. And obviously, if you're responsible for your healthcare yourself, rather than going through an employer, you have to think about the money too, because healthcare is expensive, and we try to decrease those expenses for people.
Thank you so much. And so I'm not sure how much time we have left, but we want to run through these questions as fast as we can. So I want to say hi to Judy Bailey. She's saying hi to us, and I know she has a question that she'll put in the chat here, so that's fine. Our next question is Dorothy Corley. What is your approach to test and treat if a patient is positive for COVID?
So I'll let Dr. Herring answer that one.
Sure. So, we practice evidence-based medicine, meaning that we follow guidelines. And so, if a patient does test positive for COVID, we often try to do, one of those acute type of visits where we can actually talk to them. Often we already know the medical history about the patient, and so we can know, is that based on their medical history, are they going to be at a higher risk for having more severe symptoms of COVID where they might end up, in the hospital or in the ICU? And we want to really try to prevent that. Now, there are a few now FDA approved medicines that are recommended generally within the first 5 days of having symptoms if you do test positive for COVID. And there's a couple of other criteria that we use to decide if we're going to use a medicine like that. An example would be something called Paxlovid. But based on the individual patient, if they have other underlying, say, lung disease like asthma or COPD, we might use other treatments to help manage those symptoms. But all said, we're practicing evidence-based medicine here.
And I'll just give a shout out. Hopefully Dorothy's okay with me saying this, but Dorothy's a patient of ours. So good to see you here, Dorothy, and being part of this. And just also to say, nowadays it's wonderful to have a treatment for COVID. We didn't used to have that really until the last 3 or 4 months that became regularly available. But of course, we also do encourage, lots of high zinc foods, which is mainly nuts and seeds. We also encourage lots of high vitamin C foods, which is lots of vegetables and those kind of things. So those are some of the natural things that help people through as well.
Awesome. Along those lines, do you encourage supplements or everything from whole food products?
So if you remember from that treatment triangle that we showed earlier, kind of in the middle there was something called physiology. And so that's where we can sometimes use these other natural treatments and evidence-based supplements that are available to us. So it does depend on the patient. I think that there are appropriate times where we might use some different supplements that are based on science. And so we're certainly not opposed to that. We recognize that these are other tools that can really help patients feel their best.
Excellent. Very good. Another shout out to Alan Edwards and Bertha Tutt. We have another question here from Sanjan Blade. Do you find that women make these lifestyle changes more readily than men?
So that's dangerous for us to answer that one, right?
Yes, it is. But I put it out there.
I'll try to answer that one politically appropriately, which is to say, my experience is that almost everybody wants to make changes. People care about their health. Not everyone. Some people get into such a depressed state that it's hard for them to care about their health. But almost everyone cares about their health and really wants to do better from a health perspective. And my experience also is that most people prefer to do it naturally. There's an occasional patient that we'll get who says, "Give me the pill. I don't want to change how I eat. I don't want to exercise more. Give me the pill." But most people want to do it naturally. So the challenge is not more so. It's not whether you're a man or a woman. It's more so how can you create this community or this environment where you can make the changes that you really want to make. Part of that is information. That's one of the things that we bring to the table, so we can help you sort out what scientifically is a good idea and what scientifically is potentially not going to work quite as well. Part of it is that community and having that support system and that to some extent accountability as well. So I don't think it's as much about whether you're a male or a female or even, personality types, whether you're an extrovert or an introvert or those kind of things. I think it's more about creating the environment so that those healthy choices are the easy choices. And that's part of what we're trying to do, is create that environment. And again, we do that partly through technology, partly just through our own different resources. And I'll say this too, it's partly because we really care about you. And what we know is that people are more likely to make good health choices if they feel safe and if they feel cared for. So that's something that not only can we do in our practice for each of our patients, but each one of you can do for your friends and your neighbors, is really sincerely care about them, because that makes a big difference as far as going towards health.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. And then another question is, what can we do if we have long-term sleeping problems? I know Dr. Herron had mentioned that sometimes we eat more, our appetite increases if we're not sleeping well. So this person is asking what can be done about long-term sleeping problems.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it's a very relatable question, right? I think a lot of people struggle with sleep, and there's a variety of reasons why that can be. I think one of the most important things is to, of course, work with your doctor, and even better, work with a lifestyle medicine doctor, because we're coming at it from both the medical side of it. So we want to make sure that there's no medical related things, right? Is there undiagnosed sleep apnea? Are there certain medications that are affecting sleep? But then if we're also really focused on the lifestyle medicine approach to helping with sleep, right? So all of those lifestyle medicine vital signs really do affect sleep, right? So we want to get a comprehensive understanding of why someone is struggling with sleep. And I think one thing that I always talk to patients about is, often when we're struggling with sleep, this idea of sleep hygiene, we tend to think of sleep hygiene as, what are we doing in maybe the couple of hours before bed, right? Are we making time to decompress and unwind, trying to avoid bright light exposure late in the day, trying to avoid eating too close to bed, right? We really don't want to be going to bed on a full stomach. But more than that is, we really need to be thinking about sleep as a 24-hour cycle, right? So we all have these internal clocks that are running 24/7, and they're most responsive actually to light and the timing of our meals. So if we think about that, right, the moment you get up, and as soon as you can actually get light exposure and you have your first bite of food, that is really starting those internal clocks, and that tells the body that it is daytime. So that's really what you do earlier in the day and really throughout the day is going to dictate and set you up for quality sleep at night. So it's really a 24-hour cycle, which is kind of a new understanding of sleep.
Oh, wow. So that's interesting. So everything that we do during the day determines how we will sleep at night. Wow. Were you going to say something?
Yeah, and just to go into a little bit more detail, I mean, beyond the light and the food, right? I mean, stress, right? So the stress that we carry, our emotional health, all the things that are happening during the day, that really does impact our ability to unwind at night. So we really want to think about those kind of techniques as well, building that connectedness. I mean, all of these things really can help someone improve their sleep.
Wow. Excellent. Excellent. Sounds like they need to become your patient so that they can find out more about changing what they do during the day. And then we have another question here from KARC Rebuild. She's thanking you so much for a wonderful presentation, but also I think I just lost it. Oh, here it is. Please give practical examples of mindfulness. So
I'll jump in on that one. So mindfulness is basically living in the moment, and if you look at the biblical principle, Jesus talks about how the lilies don't worry about the birds, and the lilies, they don't worry about what just happened or about their future. They just sort of live in the moment, and that's sort of what I think is our spiritual calling too, is to live in the moment. And I love that picture that Dr. Herron had on the slide, where there was the mind, the full mind, where you're thinking about everything with this this sort of constant monkey chatter, one of my patients calls it. And then there's the mindful, where you're really just looking at the beautiful things that are in front of you at that moment. But to get there, my experience is that generally you have to practice it. So you don't become mindful unless you practice having that quiet mind. So generally that means you have some time during the day where you have that quiet mind. You try to practice having that quiet mind. It's like anything. You don't get good at it unless you practice it. And most of us, I know I try to practice it quite a bit. And I still feel like I'm pretty lousy at having that quiet mind, but I do feel like I'm better than I used to be. And it actually makes a huge difference from a sleep perspective. So if I'm practicing that mindfulness and practicing having that quiet mind by having a set aside time for, you can call it meditation, you can call it any number of things, but this time where we just think about, we're talking to a church group, so I'll say spiritual principles. A lot of, take a word, a spiritual word that means a lot to you, and then just concentrate on that word. So having that time where you're not thinking about work or family issues or COVID or any other thing, you're just thinking about that one simple spiritual principle. And just focus on that and set aside 10 minutes or 15 minutes or whatever time you have to do that. And again, if you feel like you're lousy at it, that's okay. Just keep practicing. Just keep bringing your mind back to that spiritual principle, and you'll find that it works as far as giving you that mindful muscle, that ability to just stay present to the moment and stay present to what God has for you at that exact time in your life.
Excellent. So we will take our last question as we need to wrap up here. So the last one will be with Bertha Tutt. She's asking, how often do you recommend a healthy under 40-year-old have a health checkup? And did I hear correctly? Is the fee as low as $18 a month? So how often do you recommend healthy under 40?
Well, that's a great question, Bertha. As I showed earlier, that we think about younger generations, these chronic diseases are really showing up earlier in life than previous generations. And so I don't think that there's a magic answer to this question. I really think that most importantly, if you are under 40 and you've not seen a primary care doctor in a while, that would be the first step, right? Connecting with a primary care doctor and getting a good assessment of your current health. And then after that, that's really going to determine the frequency of that. So I would say at minimum once a year, but depending on what might be going on with someone's health. And as we talked about, we do like to see our patients more frequently than that, because that's really what it does take to work together, to work on these lifestyle changes and to feel like you have that support that you need to really implement these changes.
So I gave a shout out to Dorothy. I hope Bertha's okay. Give a shout out to her too, because she's also a patient of ours. But and thank you for that question. I agree with what Dr. Herron said. We like to touch bases with all of our patients at least once a year, and that can be done virtually if you're a busy millennial and you're having a hard time getting in. We'll do that virtually, but we prefer an in-person visit at least once a year. And And yes, it is only $18 a month, but most people, for most people, that's not that big of a deal. But we'll work with you. And again, if you're over 65, Medicare pays for that, so it's free for those people.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And I also want to shout out Maria Thorne as well. Thank you so much for joining us. Well, doctors, thank you so much for a wonderful presentation. It was so enlightening. We appreciate your time as well for coming to present these things for us. I want to encourage everybody to look back at the program. They have their daily dozen there. That is really recommended, I believe. Doctors, correct me if I'm wrong. Every day, we're trying to get these things done to improve our health. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yes. All right, folks, you heard it. The daily dozen. So look back, write it down, and let's start practicing that. Let's close with a word of prayer. Thank you, Heavenly Father, so much for bringing these doctors to us to impart this message for our well-being. Please be with them in their lives and everyone under the sound of my voice. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen.
Thank you.